The silence started on a Tuesday. It wasn't the usual kind. Not the comfortable quiet of two people lost in their thoughts. No, this one had weight to it. You could feel it hanging in the air like humidity before a storm. I noticed it when I came home from work, set my keys down and heard nothing. No "hey babe." No dinner sizzling on the stove. Just the faint hum of the fridge and the distant sound of traffic bleeding through the windows. "Emily," I called out, scanning the living room. She was sitting on the couch, scrolling on her phone, one leg tucked under her. When she heard my voice, she didn't look up. "Hey," I said again, softer this time. Still nothing. I remember thinking maybe she'd had a bad day. Maybe her boss had snapped at her again. He had a habit of treating everyone like they were beneath him. But even when she was mad, she never ignored me. So I asked, "Everything okay?" She gave a small shrug. I still on her phone. And that was the start. By day 3, the silence wasn't confusing anymore. It was deliberate. You can tell when someone's avoiding you versus when they're punishing you. It was in the way she'd walk past me without making eye contact, how she'd reply with short nods or gestures instead of words. The irony was, I couldn't even tell what I'd done wrong. I replayed every moment from the last week like a detective reviewing footage of a crime. I'd forgotten to take the trash out on Monday, sure. I was late picking her up from her yoga class once. But nothing worthy of this ice-cold freeze. When I tried to break it, she just folded her arms and said quietly, "You wouldn't get it." It hurt. Because Emily and I used to be that couple, the ones who could talk about anything, even the uncomfortable stuff. When we first got married, she'd say communication was her love language. Apparently, that love language came with selective translation. It took another week before I found out what she wanted. We were sitting at breakfast. Me eating in silence, her pretending to check emails. Out of nowhere, she sighed dramatically. "You know," she said, "if we had that beach house in Myrtle, I'd probably be in a better mood." I froze mid-bite. "Beach house." She gave me this sly smile, the kind that didn't reach her eyes. "Yeah. You said you wanted to invest, right? Well, I think we should do it. A vacation home, something for us." I laughed. "Emily, we can't just buy a beach house. You know how tight things are with the new mortgage and your car loan." Her expression hardened. "So that's a no." "It's not a no," I said carefully. "It's a not now." But that didn't matter. She pushed her chair back, stood up and said flatly, "I guess you'll never get it," before walking away. And just like that, the silence returned, colder than before. Weeks passed like that. I'd talk, she wouldn't. I'd ask questions, she'd stare through me. It was like being married to a ghost who still shared your bed. Except even that changed. She started staying late at work. "Meetings," she'd say. "Team dinners." Her phone became a second limb. Always face down, always locked. I told myself not to overthink it. But the more I tried to believe her, the more uneasy I felt. One night I couldn't sleep. Her side of the bed was empty. I checked the clock. 12:47 a.m. Called her. Straight to voicemail. I waited until 2 o'clock. Then 3:15. When she finally came in, I pretended to be asleep, but I heard her. The faint giggle under her breath, the smell of cologne that wasn't mine. That was when something in me shifted. I didn't explode. I didn't demand answers. I started watching. The next week I told her I was working late. Instead, I parked across from her office, a coffee in my hand, pretending to scroll through my phone. At 6:40 I saw her come out. Her boss Ryan followed. They laughed about something, that kind of laugh people share when they're not supposed to be laughing. Then he placed his hand on her back, guiding her toward his car. Not her car. I remember gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My chest felt hollow, like the air had been punched out of me. They drove off together, and I followed, just far enough to see them pull into a dimly lit restaurant on the edge of town. Not a team dinner. Not a business meeting. A table for two by the window, candles flickering between them. When she reached across the table and brushed his hand, my heart didn't just break, it collapsed. I didn't confront her that night. Couldn't. Instead, I went home, sat on the couch, and stared at our wedding photo. Her in that simple white dress, eyes bright with hope. What happened to that Emily? When did she start needing to manipulate silence to get her way? When did she start seeing me as an obstacle instead of a partner? The next morning, she kissed me on the cheek before work. "See you tonight," she said sweetly. I almost laughed. The performance was flawless. That's when I knew. This wasn't a one-time mistake. It was a pattern. A decision. Over the next few days, I gathered everything I needed. I copied phone records, printed her messages from the shared cloud backup, and took photos of her car parked outside Ryan's condo. The evidence wasn't for revenge. It was for clarity. Proof that I wasn't crazy. Proof that the silence wasn't just manipulation. It was camouflage. Once I had everything, I went to see a lawyer. "Mr. Harris," she said after reviewing the file, "I'd say you have grounds for divorce, and a very favorable one too." I nodded slowly. "I'm not after her money. I just want peace." She smiled knowingly. "Then you'll get it." 2 weeks later, I handed Emily an envelope at breakfast. "What's this?" she asked. "Something you've been asking for," I said. She opened it. The color drained from her face when she saw the word divorce at the top. "What is this supposed to be, some kind of joke?" "No joke," I said calmly. "You wanted control. You wanted to win every argument by shutting me out. Well, congratulations. You won silence. Permanent silence." She scoffed, but her voice wavered. "You're being ridiculous. We can work through this." "Work through what? The silence? The lies? Or the nights you spent with your boss while pretending to be at work?" Her eyes widened, panic flickering behind them. "You followed me." "I didn't need to," I said quietly. "You made it easy." For a long moment, she just stared at me, the realization setting in that her little power games had cost her everything. Then came the tears, the apologies, the begging. But it was too late. Moving out felt surreal. I packed my clothes, my books, a few framed photos. The house looked sterile without her clutter. No candles, no throw blankets, no faint trace of her perfume. And yet, I didn't feel emptiness. Felt clarity. The silence that once suffocated me now felt like freedom. That night, I slept on a mattress on the floor of my new apartment. No wife, no arguments, no games. Just quiet, real quiet. For the first time in months, I didn't wake up with a knot in my chest. Months passed. I heard through a mutual friend that Emily quit her job not long after Ryan's wife found out. Apparently he'd moved on, just like he had with the assistant before her. Emily tried reaching out a few times. Long texts about how she made a mistake, how she didn't realize what she had until it was gone. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. Because the truth was simple. She thought silence could manipulate me. That if she froze me out long enough I'd cave, buy her things, chase her approval, surrender my peace to her moods. Instead, she taught me something I'll never forget. Silence isn't power. Sometimes it's the sound of a relationship dying. And once it's dead, no amount of words can bring it back. It's been a year since the divorce. I still have moments where I wonder how it all went so wrong. How two people who once shared everything could turn into strangers playing emotional chess. But then I remember that last breakfast. Her wide eyes when she realized her silence had finally spoken too loud. And I smile. Because in the end, she was right about one thing. Silence is powerful. Just not in the way she thought. Hers destroyed a marriage. Mine rebuilt a life.